Hey everybody, what does the very first Indy 500 winner and the very successful Rolls-Royce of trucks, the all-American hand-built Marmon, have in common? Well, they're the same company. Also, was Marmon the Rolls-Royce of trucks? I actually think Rolls-Royce was the Marmon of cars. That doesn't make much sense, but by the end of this video it will. Let's talk about the Marmon Company. Well, everybody, as always, I had a lot of fun doing this video, and this is the first video I've actually done of a manufacturer. I've been doing trucking companies for a while, and I've had some people ask me about manufacturers, including my friend Jason Myers. So, Jason, that was a great idea, and I thought, Jason used to own a Marmon, and what a great company to do a story on, the Rolls-Royce of trucks. But now, after doing the story, I think Rolls-Royce was the Marmon of cars. We'll get to that, though, later on. I have so many pictures on this. Usually I limit the pictures and I do a rotating. Well, I kept finding great pictures of this. So you're going to see a whole lot through this whole video. But I have my notes here as always, and I got a lot of them for this one. This was a great company. The company was much bigger than I thought it was. And actually, in a way, it still exists today. Just not in the way those of us would like to see it exist. But the start of the Marmon Company actually occurred in 1865. That was the first time that the name Marmon had come into business like this. Daniel Marmon joined the well-known millwright Ellis Nordyke to form the Nordyke Marmon Company. And Nordyke Marmon grew to be one of the world's leading milling equipment manufacturers. So when Marmon's children, Walter and Harold, joined the company, they were already interested in the world's growing auto industry. Remember, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, everybody was building cars. Everybody was doing it in their garage. Anybody who had any kind of engineering degree was getting involved in this. And the brothers decided that they wanted to provide luxury automobiles for the affluent people that could afford them. So what I actually found is, in price comparisons, the original Marmons, the prices in today's value would be between $90,000 and $140,000 what they would cost. So they built their first car in 1902. 1902. So here's why I'm saying they were a luxury car builder. And Rolls-Royce started in 1904, which is why Rolls-Royce may have been the Marmon of cars. They may have been trying to be like Marmon, or at least had the same idea. And of course, while I'm talking here, you can see I'm throwing up some cars here and comparing the later 1932 Marmon to the 1932 Rolls-Royce, because I found more about this in 1932. But these are all 1932 Marmons and 1932 Rolls-Royce. And you can see they kind of look like the same car. I don't know, I don't know what kind of, amenities they had or luxury items to compare them. But this is more about trucks. I'm just telling you the history here. But yeah, in 1907, they hired 28-year-old dentist Ray Harron from Erie, Pennsylvania, as their engineer. He had a short stint as a race car driver and retired in 1910 because he would rather live than be a race car driver. He said, I guess he valued his life a lot more than the fame of it. He, however, continued working on Marmon and created the Model 32 race car. It featured an inline six, one seat, and a black and yellow paint job, naming it the Wasp. So Harron came out of retirement for one last race. In 1911, on Tuesday, May 30th, Memorial Day. Back then, May 30th was always Memorial Day. They only started the whole Monday thing in the 1960s. But the Wasp and driver Ray Harron, along with relief driver Cyrus Richard Patschke, Patschke, of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, entered the first ever Indy 500. How cool is that? They started the race in 28th out of 40. 6 hours and 42 minutes later, they took the checkered flag with an average speed of 74.49 miles per hour. Cars are a lot faster now, but no other car has ever won the Indian 500 after starting in 28th. Here's what's interesting. The Wasp was actually much faster than that and could reach speeds of over 100 miles an hour. Ray Haran had figured out through lots of testing what speed was disastrous for tires. He figured out that over 80 miles an hour was disastrous for tires. He basically won this race by playing the tortoise and the hare. So they said that he pitted 4 times for tire changes. They said every other car pitted at least 16 times for tire changes. Isn't that amazing? He said right from the start of the race, everybody passed him, took off, and were just burning up tires while he knew exactly the speed that he could go and save his tires. Yeah, might be the original story of the tortoise and the hare. Well, not too long after that came the Great Depression. Well, the Great Depression, just like so many other companies, it killed the Marmon luxury car. But obviously the Marmon name lived on. While restructuring, Marmon joined forces with Colonel Arthur Harrington. He's an ex-military engineer. They named the new company Marmon Harrington. Harrington was an expert in all-wheel drive trucks. It was his thing in the military. He built all-wheel drive vehicles. They found instant success getting contracts for 4x4 chassis for light weaponry, aircraft refueling trucks, and trucks for an Iraqi pipeline. I guess Iraqis were our friends back then. I don't know. They also started converting existing Fords into 4x4 vehicles, and they were called Marmon Harrington Ford. So it was actually Ford. It's kind of like Quigley does now with the Ford vans. I think Quigley still does it. Buys the Ford vans and gets them, turns them into 4-wheel drives. I guess that's what they did back then. Of course, we all know the advantages of 4-wheel drive now. But after the war, Marmon Harrington became the best-selling bus company from 1946 to 1959. That's interesting. So Marmon has been all over the place over the years. Now here's why I say they're kind of still around, but not really. In the early 1960s, Marmon Harrington became the Marmon Group, and Marmon Trucks became part of that. The Marmon Group still exists today, but the truck manufacturing was sold to Adrian Root. He moved the company to Denton, Texas, and in 1964 only sold 8 trucks. So the Marmon Group is now a holding company. It's part of the Berkshire Hathaway company, which is, what's his name? The rich guy. Anyway, it's part of that, but the trucking manufacturing had left the actual Marmon Group a long time ago. In 1973, Marmon was sold again to Space Corporation of Garland, Texas. Here we have it. So over the next few years, there's not a whole lot of information about it. Marmon was a pretty simple truck. I was told that if the model number has a P beside it, that meant prestige. So that's pretty interesting. I have all these pictures. I love these trucks. They never had a whole lot of models. The first Marmon was a cabover that was redesigned in 1981. In the 1980s, Marmon sold about 900 trucks a year. Remember, these were hand-built and only sold in North America, although they were sold partially in Australia under the Max Marmon name. I guess it was something about the Marmon name was only allowed to be sold in North America, or was only licensed to be. My next paragraph, by the 1990s, they dropped the cabover. Obviously, everybody was pretty much getting rid of cabovers by then, especially North American companies. I know they're still pretty famous over in Europe and stuff, but they dropped the cab overs and we're only producing 370 trucks a year. So yeah, Marmon was hand-built truck right till the end. They were only ever licensed to be sold in North America, although they did sell in Australia. But the whole hand-built thing, like you have trucks now, trucks, you order a new Peterbilt or a new Freightliner or something. It seems like something's always broke. And maybe Marmon having the actual hands-on, people actually looking at it. They were all, no assembly, or I guess assembly line, but no automation at all. And, people looked at every bolt. They looked at every piece of the truck. And yeah, it just seems like they were always great built trucks. I love seeing them now. I wish the company was still around. Here's some pictures of the last Marmon ever built. He goes to truck shows. Actually, here in Pennsylvania, is real close to me, Denver, Pennsylvania, actually, they have a Marmon truck show every year. There is a Marmon group. There's some people that own them, turn them into RVs, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, such great trucks. And that hand-built thing, I think, is just amazing. I got to believe if they were still built today, I think Kenworth and Peterbilt would still be where they are, where they always were. But I still think that if you wanted to go buy a top-of-the-line truck, if they existed today, I would hope it was still the Marmon. They never really seemed to give up their values, even though, the company didn't really last. And as production slowed, Marmon started leasing its lines to International Harvester. And in 1997, they ended production altogether. Yeah, which is really a shame. The 90s were a time of the electronic engines coming in. It's before the horrible end of the 2000s, or, when we had emissions and stuff. But the electronic engine was coming into effect, and trucks were changing so ways. They were becoming more efficient, and it's really a shame that Marmon didn't get to be a part of that. Yeah, so many great trucks back then. And like I say, I'm going to do some more manufacturers, truck manufacturers, trailer manufacturers. I've heard that the Fruhoff story is pretty awesome. I haven't started looking into it yet, but I'm going to work on that. I'm also going to keep working on companies and doing some flatbed stories. Everybody knows that I'm new here at flatbedding and want to, talk about that a little bit. But I love doing the trucking companies. And after doing this Marmon story, I really love doing the manufacturers too. Yeah, just a lot of fun. Like I said, I heard Fruhoff's pretty interesting. Rettenauer Trailers is real close to me, and I hear their story's pretty interesting too. I know Peterbilt, Kenworth, Freightliner was started by CF, or CF had a hand in starting it. International Harvester obviously is a farm equipment company. And I'd also like to talk about Volvo. Volvo is such a big company here in the United States now, but when did they become a United States company? We didn't actually see that until the 90s when the white GMCs, actually by then it was just white, suddenly started having Volvo logos on them. So they haven't been in America that long, even though they are actually an American company. They're not, apparently Volvo trucks are not like Volvo cars, although they're owned by the same company. Volvo trucks apparently still have the American standard, not necessarily Swedish. But we'll see as I look into that. I've already rambled on too much, but hey guys, thanks for listening to this. I think my next story, I'm going back to a trucking company. I just did another trucking company, did Holland, that got ruined by yellow. Let's do another one. There's so many of them. Let's do New Pen next. We'll talk about New Pen and how they got ruined by the Yellow Corporation. But thanks, guys. I always end up every video telling you I appreciate it. Please comment. I read every single comment. I love the comments. I'm on Facebook and Instagram under the Trucking Resources name. And yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.